Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Set the Pipe. I'm Sully, and I'm here with CK. And then there's Bear.
Hey.
Today, we have somebody pretty special, International Hall of Famer, first USA coach to get a medal in the Olympics for both men and women's. My pleasure, Hugh McCutcheon. Welcome to Set the Pipe.
Thanks for having us, Sully. Pleasure to be here.
Awesome.
So happy to have you, Hugh. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us today a little bit about volleyball and the growth of it around the world and, what the FIVB is doing with it. And we're just happy to have you. So thanks so much for coming.
No, truly a pleasure.
Yeah, we actually been talking about international, and we need to dive in more. And some of us are in the collegiate game coaching again. So with the foreign players coming over and making that big impact. So hopefully there's going to be a nice balance. But I want to do Hugh's bio, and I know it's long, and we're going to cut it down as much as we can, but nonetheless, it should be addressed. So today, Hugh McCutcheon is currently the Secretary General at the FIVB. He assumed that role in 2024 after being elected during the organization's 39th World Congress in Portugal. He also is current at University of Minnesota as the Assistant AD, as Strategic Advisor. We can touch on that as well. He has a book out. Fellas, if you don't have it, Sully has it.
Right? Oh, wow. Well played,
Championship Behavior, a model for competitive excellence in sports. Quote, championship results require championship behaviors. It's as simple as that. And we don't always have five-star talent, but we often make up differences by being five-star teachers, learners, and competitors. Spent 11 years at Minnesota, went to Final Four appearances 3 times, Big Ten champions, and Big Ten Coach of the Year twice. He had 2018 AVCA Coach of the Year. And again, we can keep going on and on. On the USA side, he guided both the men's and women's indoor volleyball teams to Olympic medals, the only United States coach to ever to do so. He's mentored USA women's national teams to a 106-39 record in his 4 years, and the men's volleyball program in 2008 Olympic gold medalist, counting his 107-33 record. Pretty impressive. And he was the 2008 US OC National Coach of the Year. And like I said, I can keep going on, and we can get into his history. He's been on plenty of podcasts if everybody wants to listen to him, but he is also married to a US Olympian, Wiz, and a couple of children as well, Andrew and Annika. So welcome you to Set the Pipe.
Thanks for that. Good to be here. Yeah, let's jump in. No, you guys have at it. Fire away, and I'm ready.
What I was going to say is I can't believe you didn't bring up the best part is you're citing out days at BYU when you were just, that's where it all started.
Yeah, but I know his first year wasn't really great for him, right? But nonetheless, while he was there, they did pretty damage, and we don't get too many Cougars on here, so
it was. Listen, it's an interesting intersection of events just being here because, first of all, Coley and I had the privilege of playing against each other back in the day, and Northridge was clearly better. But on one day, the Cougs got a taste of victory, and I'm not here to gloat on that. But for me, that match was super, super important because, as you know, I'm from New Zealand originally. That's why I talk a bit funny, and so. It was a lot, BYU was great, but it was certainly very different than Christchurch, New Zealand. And we sucked the first year. And that's the only way you can describe it. Right? 2-27. That's the scientific term, I think, at that point. And then on top of that, I really love volleyball, but I hadn't been playing that long. So I could jump and hit, but whatever. I wasn't very skilled, so I had to really work hard to get better. But anyway, so here we go. We're playing the Matadors, and we're at their gym, and I don't know. I just remember going into left front, and we were up. I don't know what it was. Maybe we had set point back then. It was to 15 and side up, And I remember this feeling coming at me like, oh man, it's getting big. And there was this decision for all of us, right? It gets big, and are we going to get bigger? Or are we going to get small? And my history was a little bit like, man, when it gets big, I'm not super comfortable in those moments. And I looked across the net, and there was Coley and there was Axel, and I just kind of started laughing. And I'm sure it's not like maniacally or whatever, but just like just laughing and just thinking, how great is this? I'd worked so hard. I'd invested so much time and energy into the chance to become the best I could be. And instead of kind of turning left, I turned right. And it was really a pivotal moment. Like I really savored the moment of competition, whereas before I struggled. So anyway, we went on to win that set and win that match. And it was a big turnaround for us and for me personally. So Coley would have no idea that happened, but that happened in your gym. There you go.
Well, I'm glad I could help.
The Matterdome. It's a sacred place for me. Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome that you say that, because that's one thing I talk with my kids is when they're playing in those kind of matches or games.
Yeah.
The win-loss matters, of course, but it's what like you said, that competition. You're there and you can make that decision to just go all in or not. And it was so great. And BYU turned the corner from there, right? You guys were just starting out as a program anyways, but they're one of the best programs have been since then. So that's awesome.
It was a pivotal moment. Yeah, it was pretty great.
So I'm going to fast forward all the way to where you are right now with the FIVB in the international game. So when you were at BYU, there was, BYU had a few international players. It wasn't as prevalent in the United States back then. What do you see in the international game of the growth that why so many young folks want to come out here to the United States and play in college?
Well, the one thing we have is the opportunity to get an education and continue to develop in your sport. And that's really unique, I think, in most other countries. Not that education isn't valued, but it's a binary decision. It's you either go down an academic path or you go down a sporting path, and the U.S. collegiate system offers you the chance to do both. So I think that's really the appeal. And listen, obviously in these days with financial incentives and all the other elements that go into it, of course, it becomes even more compelling. Yeah.
So at Minnesota, are you involved with any of those NIL, either not necessarily in the mix of contracts, but mentoring coaches, mentoring players at all?
Yeah, a little bit. So in 2022, December of 22, I stopped coaching or retired from coaching, or whatever you want to call it. And actually, the book was a conduit to that shift.
I remember. I think I was reading about you sat with the AD and it was like, oh, this is really enlightening and it's pretty valuable. We can actually use this here.
Yeah. So I started working with all the different teams and programs and producing quite a bit of content for coaches, because there isn't, one of the fundamental tenets of the book is just there's this lack of academic rigor around coaching. It just tends to be really tradition based. We parent the way we were parented, we coach the way we coached, and here's all this best practice research we should be applying. So all that being said, in those 2 years, I was pretty heavily involved with a lot of different programs, and it was super interesting and felt like a real privilege to be around different spaces and try to apply these principles in different ways. It was really cool. And while I was doing that, I was also full-time consulting with the FIVB. And then, as you said, in Porto, there was an election. A new president was elected, Fabio Azevedo, and he asked if I would join him in the leadership group as Secretary General. And of course, I was honored to do so, and we figured all that out. So my role with the university then became more consulting. And so, obviously, FIVB's, there's plenty to do every day, but I'm still around at the university. I office there. I still meet with coaches. I still meet with student athletes. I still meet with admin, but more, not getting deep into it with them, but just as a sounding board, trying to help them out or resolve issues. But so it's a long answer to a short question. So yes, but not like it was during those years, 23, 24.
Got it.
Yeah.
Hey, Hugh, being from New Zealand.
Yeah.
I would think that football or soccer and rugby are huge there, right?
Yeah, rugby. Yeah.
How'd you get involved in volleyball? What sparked your interest?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of kind of bigger picture existentially. I played a lot of different sports growing up, and I don't know, I really liked volleyball. I really fell in love with volleyball. But the other answer is my basketball coach wasn't so cool. So because he wasn't great, I bounced, and the volleyball guys seemed cool, and so I went and played with those guys. Yeah, but best decision I ever made.
You tried to dunk, and he was being a jerk by saying, "Yo, if you
I
dunk,
did.
you
I
get a
got
break."
a little dunk, got a little two-hander when I was 15. Like just snuck it over the rim.
Yeah.
And then the next time I go up, do it again, but I didn't know what I was doing. Right, so I lost my balance, held on just so I wouldn't land on my back, and the guy was accusing me of swinging on the rim, and you're going to have to buy a new one, and all this kind of stuff. And I was just like, man. That's not really the reaction I would have expected from that guy. So,
and look what happened. And because of that, instead of you becoming this unbelievable basketball player and coach, you changed the world of football. So you actually
listen, man, it was the best thing that could have happened. Really.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Back to the international piece for me. So a lot of athletes are coming from the other countries to play here for those reasons alone. So two questions is, how does the United States athlete take back those spots back over? Is there a training issue? Is that a international issue? Because again, there's so many things. So I know there's a lot of folks coming over here to play, and as they should, like you said, there's so much to do here, and the NIL and the money and to play and education. How does that change here for the United States to give our country back a few more spots in the collegiate game?
Well, it's, you mentioned BYU back in the day. I think, no one was really keen to go to Provo, Utah to play. So the only option was to dial 011 and see what happened. Right.
Yeah.
But these days, there are choices. And I think there's two ways to look at that question, Coley. I think on the men's side, a lot of the young talent is developed in other countries at a younger age. I think they probably play more. They also get the chance to play with older players. They play up.
Yep.
So their development is probably a little more advanced. So when they land, they're generally further along than some of the U.S. players, at least at the elite level. That's not to say that there aren't great U.S. players, because there clearly are. There's a ton of really talented U.S. men out there. So that's one side of it. On the women's side, I think there's so much talent on the women's side. But again, because some of these players coming up are a little further advanced maybe in their volleyball IQ, then they're a little more appealing to come over, and a lot of them are looking for a different life path anyway, to get out of a country or to get into a better system or to get a better education. So I think there's a win-win on that side. But it's kind of like the top talent from other countries is kind of coming here on the men's side. I think there's just a lot of good athletes coming from overseas, but the top athletes overseas on the women's side generally are staying in Europe and playing professionally. But every now and then, there's a kid that played at Nebraska that was playing in A1 in Italy and came over and competed with them last year. So I think it happens, but the top talent on the men's side, I think it's an interesting experience for them to come here. Yeah. Probably a little more breadth on the women's side, a little wider, deeper.
So about your education, I read that you wanted to actually go get a PhD. So did you want to go the route of a professor at one time? Because guys, he has 2 masters and he has, he has 2 masters, but it's really designed for coaching and kinesiology with an MBA on top of it. So the position that you're in right now, even coaching or at Minnesota or even the FIVB, couldn't be even more perfect than going after that PhD. So when did you go slam on the brakes a little bit on the PhD portion and then change over? Because usually PhDs, right, go into the academic and go to be a professor. So why the switch?
Well, I thought I would. I thought I might enjoy the challenge of academia, and not to say that it's there's nothing good there. Just when I came back, I played after I left BYU. I played in Europe, and then I was playing in Japan. And then I was like, look, I'm going to head back for a lot of reasons. I just decided that enough was enough, and I had a chance to start coaching as a means to an academic end, as I said. So initially, I was like, hey, let's go to school and I'll do a little bit of coaching. But after a couple of years of coaching, I'm like, well, I mean, academics is cool and all, but coaching is a lot of fun. And it, academics is your head, but coaching is your head and your heart. So you get both. And so I was just like, well, if I'm going to be an ankle sprain away from unemployment, if I coach, then I better get an MBA. Or something real, because no one cares about a master's in XFIS and statistics or whatever it was. No one cares about that, right? But MBA, at least it's got a little juice. And it turned out to be great. As you said, there's so many parallels between coaching and management, and then in addition, as it's turned out, I can use both in this capacity really well.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm real big on the mental part of the game, mental, emotional part of the game. And I know you had a mentor, Dr. Ken, is it Ravizza?
Yeah, Ravi.
Ravizza passed away in 2018, but everybody called him like the godfather of sports psychology.
Legend.
So what was your experience with that? I know that you've implemented that in terms of your Olympic teams and how you really kind of brought that to that 2008 Olympic team. How important is that? And as coaches out there, how much are we missing that part of our coaching? Because like you've said, we learn from you don't take classes necessarily to be this coach. You just kind of do it because you were a player and, that kind of thing. But I think the big mental part of the emotional part of our game is huge. Do you think it's being addressed appropriately, or do you think we're actually missing out? Collegiate, high school, club, whatever you want to address.
Yeah, well, we're getting into a good topic here. First and foremost, Ravi was awesome, and I would say this. Well, let me tell you a story about how we got engaged with him.
Okay.
The connection was through the All Blacks. A good mate of mine, Gilbert Anoka, he and I actually played on a club volleyball team together for a few years.
Okay.
And Bert connected me to Ravi because Ravi was doing some stuff with the All Blacks. But we'd gone through a couple of different sports psych people. I knew that the guys we had talent, but we needed to get a little bit better at the mental game. And it was very unsuccessful because I think, again, we're talking about that group, mature athletes, seasoned professionals. We needed someone that could actually give them value add, not kind of talk down to them. And a lot of sports psych gets a little weird in a hurry. And anyway, I digress. So Ravi came in and he was just basically gave a 30-minute chat about, hey, here's kind of the stuff we do. Here's what it's about. And at the end of it, he's like, hey, if you guys want me back, you talk to your coach, let him know. But he was like, hey, I'll come or I won't come. Whereas everyone else was like, hey, sign me up for a 3-year agreement or whatever.
Right. And he was a baseball guy, right?
Yeah, baseball guy. So
heavy into baseball. So is sports?
Yeah,
or did he have to twist it a little bit for volleyball?
The particular area that was effective for us was especially from the service line because it's a closed loop motor skill, like pitching's a closed loop motor skill. You're in charge of all of it. So, but also just kind of, how to manage the moments. Because I think the reality is, well, first of all, there's two things I want to make sure everyone's clear on. First of all, the mental game is what happens between the moments of physical activity, right? So, sport isn't a mental exercise; it's a physical exercise. But we also understand that the body isn't going to do anything without the mind telling it what to do. So those systems are connected. We can't change that. But one of the things we also got to understand is that fundamental mastery is probably at least in my opinion, the cornerstone of the mental game. And if we take the basic example of free throw shooting and I don't know who the worst person is, maybe it's Shaq or someone, I don't know, but he's got his elbow here, and he's shooting his free throws, and maybe his routine's great, and maybe he bounces it 3 times every time, and maybe he takes a big deep breath and does all the stuff that his sports psych might tell him to do, but it doesn't matter because his mechanics are all goofy. And to your point, right, where I'm going with this is at all different levels, because of this lack of rigor, as we say, around coaching and teaching, because coaches are teachers first and then they coach on the weekends, right?
Right.
Because of this lack of rigor around that, a lot of coaches want to reduce things that are actually technical inefficiencies, and they want to make them some kind of mental deficiency. Like, hey, the kids, you're soft, but it's not that they're soft. Their mechanics are screwed up. So that's the part of it that I think is really important for us all to understand. Like, once you've got the fundamentals in place, then you can start talking about how the mental game can influence performance. But until you've got fundamental mastery, it kind of, not that it doesn't matter, but it becomes a different conversation.
Yeah, we had Andrea Becker on here, and
Sure.
It was an amazing podcast, and she just hit on a lot of things. But when I was tying in your career flow from player to assistant coach to going, maybe PhD is not the way to do it, and you tied in statistics and an MBA with the coaching on top of it, and then it was the national team. It just kind of progressed, and then when I saw the sports psychology you wrapped in, I'm like, you had it going on. Like, and I don't know if that was the intent or just kind of the way it went, but I just felt that the mental game and how you handle players and certain situations within the game is not addressed, I don't think, as much as we probably should, but that's just me.
Well, so it's I'm going to sound more self-serving than I want to, but it's an astute observation on your part, because again, I worked with some really good players, right? So they were the ones doing the work, and I just was there helping them along. But I think there are those moments, how to manage those moments. Those are real interactions, and they're substantive. The ripples of where, we talked about turning left or turning right. The way those moments pan out, they can have serious repercussions. So to your original question, Ravi came in and it was just, really, the thing about Ravi is that it's really simple and powerful, and it's applicable. And one of the reasons I think get to work with student athletes in my current role is because so much of sports psych, and I'm not against sports psych, but so much of it gets really clinical, really quick with our athletes in this day and age.
Andrew said that,
And what we really talk about is, hey, here's some really practical things you can do to help control the moment, so that the moment doesn't control you. So it's more kind of performance psychology, not sports psychology.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
One thing that you mentioned, and this might go back to, I asked you how we change a little bit more in the United States to get back to maybe taking a few of those spots. You talked about fundamentals and being in the FIVB in your role and watching youth volleyball all over the world. Is that something that we're missing on teaching more fundamental volleyball, and not the competing so much here in the United States at 12U, 10U, they're playing 30 tournaments a year, instead of teaching how to pass the ball in every situation, so when you get to that one match. So I'm curious what your thought is on that, since you talk about the fundamentals being such an important part of mastery.
No, it's an important question, Coley, because listen, we have this sport industrial complex that's going, and it's massive. We're all connected to it in some way or another. But I think in a lot of ways, it does many of our youth a significant disservice. Not just because of the emphasis on competition and winning, but also because we tend to specialize too soon. We don't teach. We're doing things tactically that we can't do technically. I mean, there's a myriad of issues that go into it. And it just so happened, of course, we had the Winter Olympics, and one of the things that NBC did was this whole thing around the Norway, right? This sporting paradigm in Norwegian sport where kids don't compete for a long time, and they just have fun, but they also learn how to do it, and it's more kind of this guided discovery process. So I'm not saying that within the American culture that we have to follow that's what works with them, because I mean there's some really great lessons that I learned, especially around competition, that are nested in kind of the U.S. Paradigm, as it were. But I want to temper that with the idea of, like, competing is really important and it's great, but we kind of have lost our way there a little bit too. If that's the thing we want to play to our strength, we're not there currently. I think what we tend to do is think that participation is competing, and we also tend to view competition as a 1 or a 0. Like, Coley, you win, so you are everything, you get everything. I lose, so I am nothing and I get nothing. And so, again, if we combine another layer to that, the world of comparison in which we live through social media, no one wants to look foolish or insufficient, coming up short. So kids don't want to risk quote unquote failing, because they look a little silly, and someone could take a clip of it and then they look, silly forever because it's digitally permanent. So the whole thing is very complicated. But in my opinion, if we want to get good U.S. players, we need, and we have, don't get me wrong, we have a ton of them. So I'm not saying that.
No, of course. But listen, the reason I said that, you go look at Northridge right now, half the team's from a different country.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, so that's why I'm asking. It's not like it's one player. We had Axel, right? We had Axel. They have 9 or 10 guys now, which is, I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm just saying
it's different. Well, that's the way probably to accelerate your volleyball IQ.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is, I think we specialize too early. Like, our kids play basketball. they happen to be tall because of apples and trees and all that. But they've been playing post for, like since they were 6 years old. But what happens if they stop growing and they got no handles? Because, someone at 6 said that they were going to be tall. Well, we don't know that. And I mean, it's just goofy. And then on top of that, just, we want the reason we were good in 2008, and not to go glory days on you, but the reason we were good is because we had generalized specialists, people that were good at everything, but they were great at one or two things. And I think that was a generational thing when you guys played, Coley, when we were playing. People that were really good at the whole game, but they were great at one or two things specific to their position. And I think we're missing that as well.
Yeah. I see it in my kids play hoop, and, you go to a tournament over the weekend and you play 5 games, right? Like when I was a kid, I was just so excited to put the uniform on that one game on the weekend, and I played. So you go play and you lose 2 on Saturday. Like it would have killed me for like a year that I lost those 2 games. And then they wake up Sunday and they get another 2 or 3 games, and then they win, and then they get a trophy.
Right.
So they played 5 games. They went 3-2. What are you learning? Is losing important? Is it not? Is winning important? And then again, the biggest thing as I see is kids are have to be so specialized to be skilled in that sport at a young age, and they lose the overall athleticism isn't the right word, but just the whole athletic prowess and making plays that you wouldn't be able to make without going out on the street and playing, wiffle ball with your buddies and just all of those things. And we've talked about it quite a bit on this, and I hope, and it's hard to do. Maybe John can do it here, now that he's running USA Volleyball, and to try to bring that back, maybe limit, not a lot. I know it's a money game, but limit the competition just a little, right? You don't have to play every other weekend, and just maybe, once a month, and get more of the training and the ability to just get better, and really do the fundamentals. I think that's what we need to do here personally. But
there's a narrative. I think you're right, Coley. There's a narrative of kind of a FOMO, like, hey, if you're not getting better, the other kid is, because we're always one of the biggest, I don't know if we're going to say lie, but certainly one of the falsehoods that we tend to tell ourselves in Western societies, that we should give away our today for a better tomorrow. Give up your high school so you're going to be great in college. Give up college so you have a chance to be pro, and whatever, and then whatever. I think you get to 65 and then you're playing golf, and that's supposed to be nirvana. But I think but there's only so many rounds of golf we can play, so who cares about that, right? I always say, if you want to have a good tomorrow, have a good today. But what happens is, of course, is we want people to specialize really early, because apparently, that matters, when I don't think it does. And then in addition, we want you to commit, full time to our sport, because that way, your perpetual income stream is ours, not someone else's.
Yeah. And 2 things. So when you mentioned glory days, Hugh, don't get it twisted. That's all we talk about on this thing is our glory days. So
that's what Coley talks about.
Remember, Coley was a three-time first team All-American. You always have to put first team on there. So just
as you should, man. He was great.
I sometimes walk down the stairs and I go, was I an athlete? Like, did I actually? I'm like, I swear I played 2 sports in college and I was pretty good, right? Like,
anytime you got doubts, just give me a call, man. I'll tell you. I'll set you straight.
Nice.
Well, I tell you what, like 15 years ago, so my oldest is 26, and she had a soccer coach. And it was the strangest feeling, the strangest approach. And he's just like, hey, we're not going to worry about winning. We're going to lose. We're going to get our butt kicked. If you want me as a coach to applaud your kid, to cheer for your kid, they're going to do a move, basic fundamentals, right? Maradona, or, this kind of passing. And he was right. And it was like, wait a minute, we're not trying to win here. It was such a strange thing, but I'm like, all right, I'll give this guy a shot. Cool. And they were awful the first year. Awful, right? Second year, he didn't even teach him like, kick the ball all the way down the field so we can score. Nope, wasn't that way. Second year, by the second half of their second year, it wasn't even close. It was so embarrassing that they were playing keep away. They weren't even playing soccer. Their fundamentals were that good. Yeah. And I was like, son of a gun. That's right. Stick with the fundamentals. It wasn't about winning. And they just surpassed everybody. So when Coley touches on, are we playing too much? Should we just be training a lot more? This conversation is on our pod a lot.
Yeah. Well, and teaching a lot more. Like, that's the thing, right? it's one thing, but this whole idea that we're just going to organically learn volleyball by just being around it. I mean, there's a little bit of truth to that, but it needs to be like, it's not self-discovery, it's guided discovery. Like, you need skill constructs, you need some clarity around which elements, because volleyball is different. Everyone can, I mean, I'm not to diminish these sports, but everyone can kick a ball to a certain degree. Sure. Everyone can shoot a free throw to a certain degree. You know what I mean? Like, we can throw a baseball, but not everyone can run and jump and hit. I mean, that's a lot of complexity. And so there's some elements that need to be, laid down for you. So kind of macro, hey, here are the building blocks. And then, micro, you can have your own voyage of self-expression or whatever it is you want to do, the way you do some of these things. But some of these other things, we live on planet Earth. They're not negotiable. The laws of physics apply. You know what I mean?
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
It's interesting because I want to get back into coaching soon. My Michelle and I want to get back into coaching some high school stuff or youth sports, and that's the way we did it back when we did it. It's the way I'm going to continue to do it. Is the way you're talking about it. I think it's great, and I hope that more people listen to our podcast, but in general, start to go back to that where I grew up in the 80s, where you were outside every day playing and you played multiple sports, and you were down at the park and you played soccer and basketball and baseball. And I picked up volleyball later. And a lot of those kids, both boys and girls, became great athletes that specified in a sport. Right. And then just like you said, so I love that. I'm going to pivot to another, I guess it's international as well. So professional volleyball has been really only played outside the United States, right? All of us, you, me, Bear, you go play, you go overseas to make some money. In the last few years, the women's game has put some professional leagues here in the United States. How does the FIVB see that for the growth of volleyball? Does it excite them to see the United States, who has a lot of the major sports in it, from NBA to NFL? Is it an exciting time for the FIVB to see women's game like this here grow here in the United States?
100%. Listen, the goal for our organization is to try to grow the number of people that are connected to our sport. From a couple of years ago, it was around 800 million to 1.6 billion by 2032. So we're trying to double the number of people that are connected to the sport. Now, if you're looking at different vehicles for that, I mean, one play is you go where there are a lot of people. So you talk to people in China, and you talk to people in India and Southeast Asia. There's some strategy around that. But then you also think about, of course, the impact of bigger markets, especially when you get into a more commercial setup. And so we think pro volleyball in the US is a really, really important initiative. We are concerned, probably like everyone else, that so much of the resources and energy is kind of volleyball versus volleyball, when it feels like it should be volleyball versus the market in the US. So that doesn't feel like that's helping. But to that end, we'll support the growth of all leagues that are here and try to help them as much as we can, because we think it's such a critical element of the whole global volleyball ecosystem to have something in the US where, and listen, I think we've all played overseas where, you get paid. So in you're professional, but it's not professional like it would be in the US, where there's the support services and the other elements that you would bring into it relative to athlete welfare. So I think there's a chance to really elevate the expectation of what it is in our sport to be a pro, and the US could be a great driver of that. And that's not to diminish what happens in all these other leagues around the world. I mean, they're all great, but the US would be a wonderful complementary piece if we could really get it going here. That'd be great.
Yeah. And do you think one league is enough? Do you think two? How? And it doesn't matter which league, but do you think they need to?
I think there needs to be one. I mean, and listen, if there's a minor league and a major league or something like that, okay, maybe there's some bandwidth there, but there's not enough, in my opinion, right? I don't think there's enough bandwidth for the U.S. consumer to take on two volleyball leagues, let alone differentiate what the differences or the similarities are between them, or the athletes or whatever. So I just think if we could get it to one league, and then, like I said, make it volleyball versus the market versus volleyball, I think that'd help everyone.
Yeah, and I hope the competition of the leagues, and I watch them, and they're both great, and they're doing amazing, is the fact that if they can combine somehow, like you said, and have that one big league, whatever it would be, and it's exciting to see, I know when I was playing in college, if I got to come and go play in Tulsa or Oklahoma, anywhere, Dallas, or just to be on a volleyball team and play professionally in this country would have been amazing. And I think it's great to see it. And, we're going to I'll let Sully or Bear kind of talk about the collegiate game on the women's side too, but the women's game and women's sports in general has been blowing up, right? Which is just awesome. And I'm sure your wife just loves to see it. I know Mooney does. To sit on a Sunday and watch, 15,000 people when Purdue's playing Wisconsin in a women's volleyball game on a major television show it's incredible, right? And it's incredible to see it. So, I was just curious on that because I'm glad to see that it's an important piece, but I'd love to see, like you said, maybe a little it come together, but I'm going to keep cheering for it and watching it grow.
Either way, we got to keep supporting it. Like I said, if it's 2 leagues and that's the way it stays, then cool, we'll support 2 leagues. But I think this whole thing, volleyball versus the market, though, I think bears a little more explanation relative to the idea that we understand that women's sport, as it should, is having a moment. I just don't think that window lasts forever. And I'm not saying that women's sport won't continue to be relevant or important. I'm just saying, there's professional women's ice hockey, there's professional women's soccer, there's professional women's lacrosse. At some point that space is going to get filled. So here's volleyball with all of these qualities that we think are really important and great for sport fans to connect to. But the window won't last forever.
Yeah. The explosion of attendance for Division I volleyball to me has been amazing within the last 3 years.
Yeah. Crazy, right?
Yeah. How do we keep it up?
I think it'll keep up. I mean, honestly, the difference between pro volleyball, it's like saying that the difference between Olympic volleyball and beach volleyball at the Olympics and the rest of the time during the span. There's some juice around what happens at the Olympics and beach volleyball, but for indoor women's volleyball, there's some juice around the fact that it's the school and there's some parochial stuff that goes on there, and people want to support it, and they come out in droves. I mean, 92,000 people in Nebraska is phenomenal. I mean, that's incredible. Yeah. And we should talk about that for the rest of our lives, because it's so far from what anyone could have imagined. Yeah. And yet it just seemed like it kind of came out of nowhere. But yet, to your point, like more and more people are coming because it's a good product.
Yeah, I think it was it Wisconsin that had like 14,000, and then Florida's like, oh. Okay, 14. We're going to go 16,000, right?
Yeah, it's got
Nebraska
some momentum.
Kind of killed the momentum and said, well, you know what? We're going to do 92,000. Like that was just absolutely.
It's a tough one to beat.
Okay, well, we can't really compete with that, but still, the droves, and we talk about ESPN Plus and having all these teams on there for exposure, and we're finally starting to talk to our daughters about sitting down and just watching it, right? Instead of just going to these tournaments with whistles all the time. But now they can do like the little boys did, and they can follow their university, local or not. If they like Texas, they can watch Jared play and all that kind of good stuff. But I was just curious. And from the FIVB, let me back up. What is your daily? What do you do for FIVB? I mean, I know your title.
That's a good question. Right?
Yeah. What do you do?
What do you actually do here?
What do you do?
I mean, the title. The synonymous role, I guess, within the business context would be something akin to like a CEO role. So the president of the federation would be like the executive chairman of the board, Fabio. So he's kind of strategic. My role would be a little more akin to CEO, so kind of strategic with him, but also tactical in terms of how we're trying to grow the game globally. And then we have a guy, Steve Tutton, who is a general sport director, who would be kind of like a COO, and we have a CFO as well, but he's kind of taking care of the day-to-day around the sport and how we deploy. So something like that. So I'm on a reasonable number of calls with different stakeholders around the world, just trying to help facilitate a lot of different things, from the basic stuff like rules of the game to events and world championships and Beach Pro Tour, all the different stuff that we're doing. So also involved with the IOC. I was in Milano Cortina for IOC meetings. So there's a lot of different parts to it. No 2 days are the same, but that's part of what makes it great.
Okay. Rules. That's interesting. We
I
change
thought you
them
might pick up
every
on
year.
that. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Drives me nuts. I mean, it does. It drives me nuts. I wish we had like a 2-year, 4-year period. Okay, this is what we're going to do for the next 2 years, or this is what we're going to do for the next 4 years. It's every year. Am I the only one bothered by this?
I used to be. I'm going to say something. I used to be bothered by it, but what I think is genius, in my opinion, and you can tell me if you think so or not, Hugh, is they're adapting to the game with the world we live in to make it more fun every time you see it. That's what I think. Like, for instance, the setting. When I used to watch a setter throw the ball like this and throw it up to the thing and they don't call it, I'm like, what are you doing? However, if you're watching the game, it's still flowing in the game. It's still going outside. The guy's still or the woman's still taking a huge cut at it and scooping, and it could be a long rally. And if you would have called the throw, it wouldn't be a rally. So I just see the changes being made. I don't want to say helping the game, but making the game flow and be more watchable.
Yeah, more TV friendly.
Yeah. So you get to feel however you want to feel, Sully. It's a safe space. That's okay. But what I would just let you know is principally the idea is to make the game more understandable and to make it more accessible. And we are, and I think I can say this for the four of us, we are passionate about volleyball, and we know the game pretty well. So all of the nuance, all of the little esoteric rules that we have, we think they make perfect sense, and we live and breathe them. But if we're going to get to 1.6 billion, people that don't know anything about volleyball have to be able to understand what's going on. Well, what do you mean he was out of rotation? What does that mean? What is the overlap? Or how come when they contacted the ball and that guy moved and then they called a whistle? Or how come they could double it on first contact when they were playing defense, but they can't do it when they're setting? And, there's just so on and so on and so on and so on. And I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm just saying, like, that's the goal, is to make it more understandable and more accessible. And as we go through, the double contact is an easy example. Seldom does it lead to a competitive advantage when you chuck it. But more importantly, to Coley's point, there were so many rallies in the Philippines, and I was in Thailand too for the World Championship. There were so many rallies that were extended, that were phenomenal, because people would just let it go. And there were more people willing to sit. Like, as we know, all middles identify as setters.
All middles want to set, baby.
Yeah. Even though we know, but they all want to set.
We do know.
And now they can without fear of retribution. So it's just freeing it up. I mean, that's the goal.
Well, it's a little bit like basketball, maybe 3 seconds in the key. You kind of have to learn that, right?
Yeah.
Or traveling, but do you let it go now just to keep the play flowing and it's enjoyable for the audience?
Well, that's the key, Bear.
Yeah.
What are we doing? We're trying to get people to come in, spend some money that's hard earned, some disposable income, and have a great experience watching a sport that they don't generally, if we get Joe Blow off the street, they don't have a lot of knowledge. They can have some kind of appreciation because it looks kind of cool, but they don't have much empathy because they've never really tried it. So one of the things we did in Paris that was super powerful was this volleyball experience, and we're going to have it in LA. But basically, it was a chance, like when you came in the doors of the South Paris Arena, the first thing you saw were the warm-up courts. So you walked right in, and the teams were right there. Like, you could be 10 feet away from them. So if you wanted to get a picture of Nishida or whoever it was, you could do it. And then as they warm up, they do the thing. And then we took them down a tunnel between the two courts. They were here. We had a tunnel. Then on the other side of the warm-up courts, there was this Olympic Terraflex court that we built for them. There was a bunch of mini courts, kind of like the baby courts over in Hawaii at Outrigger. We had jump for vertical. We had serve for speed. We had all these activities. So people came and played. We had a bunch of ex-Olympians there, gold medalists, Jiba, Vlad Gribic. We had Nutsara and Kim from Nutsara from Thailand, Kim from Korea, all these different people. So again, if you're a casual fan, you come in, you get to play, you get to jump, you get to do it. And then it doesn't matter where your seat was, but you got to watch an Olympic volleyball game, and you understood, like, when that guy dove and made that pickup, or when that female, jumped and then ran out and got a big stuff out on the outside. Like, that was really cool what they did because you tried it and you know that it's actually way more difficult than it looks. So that's to Bear's point. Like it's entertainment. I mean, if we think we're doing something other than that, I mean, don't get me wrong. We get to be purists. We don't want to destroy the essence of the sport.
Right.
But we want people to come and enjoy it. How are we going to get growth if we can't get people to engage?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like it.
So you touched on the Olympics a little bit. Can we get some of your projections of Los Angeles in 2028, indoor, outdoor, men's and women's? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it's going to be great. How about that? I think, everyone talks about complexities with LA, maybe for other sports, but I think for volleyball, it's going to be really, really good. Honda Center will be maybe the best arena we've ever had for indoor volleyball.
I'm excited for that. I live
right around the corner from my house. I'm fired up. Yeah.
Really cool. And just great people at OC Vibe. And, obviously John and I have some good history. So great to have such a wonderful working relationship with USA Volleyball. So all kinds of good stuff there. And listen, beach, obviously originally it was Santa Monica, then there was talk about Huntington, and we're going to land in a good spot, even though
Long Beach, right?
The history of Long Beach, Alameda Beach. I think the history of it with events there isn't great, but and not the events, but just the sand and the quality of the beach and all that. But they're going to make sure the sand is right, and that it's the Olympics, right? So there's certain standards around all of that. So I think it's going to be a great competition. I think there's going to be a great arena they're going to build there. It's a big footprint. They can build something really impressive. I think it's going to be cool. So I think both sports are going to be really interesting. And last thing I'll say is, and then I'll talk about teams. Honda Santa is standalone, but I think people will go and they'll go check it out because it's going to be so cool. And then all that stuff around it's going to be in place.
And they're building a bunch of stuff right now to make it a great event. Yeah.
So kind of like LA Live, but in the OC, it's going to be phenomenal.
They just put a huge parking structure there. I just drove by. Like they were getting ready.
Going.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. And then for the beach, it's going to be actually part of a sport park. So there's going to be like 5 or 6 different sports out there in Long Beach. And so one of the things that we know about this particular Olympic Games is that it's going to be fairly spread out. But there'll be, the chance you could go to Long Beach and you could catch a bunch of sports in 1 or 2 days. And so I think a lot of people will come. And beach volleyball is going to be a great engine for all of that as well because it's so well attended. And it's Southern California and everyone wants to go to the beach at least one day. So why not come watch some volleyball, right? So I think as an event, it's going to be great. Who's good, who's not? Well, it's man, there's so many good teams out there. I mean, the thing that the Italian women are doing right now is phenomenal, right? I mean, so impressive. What are they? World championships, Olympic champions, VNL champions. Just an incredible team. And kudos to their athletes and to Velasco for the work that they're doing. It's super impressive. But, it used to be that I'd say there were, some good teams on the women's side, and then there was kind of a drop off. I think that next layer of teams, there's a lot more depth there than there was, and I think that's going to continue to grow. So I would expect by the time we get to LA, it's 12 really, really good teams, and good luck. I think it's
that's 12 out of 222
territories and countries.
222 teams, only 12 go, boys.
Wow. I mean, winning the Olympics is great, right? That's a good day at the office, and I'd recommend that to anyone. But getting there is the beast, right? I mean, that's the thing that's so gnarly is punching your ticket. But anyway, women's is going to be good. Where does USA sit? There'll be so much talent as always, and then it's just volleyball IQ, and Sully will get them going. Sully, other Sully will get them going. Sully, there you go.
We play with them,
And Karchi will get it going on the guys' side, and the guys, of course, they're going to be a little long in the tooth, and so it just comes down to how they manage that balance of maturity and one of the things we saw in the Philippines was here's Bulgaria with the Nikolov brothers just going nuts, and you know what I mean. So there's just it's a lot. So last thing I'll say, and I hope I'm not rambling too much here, but one of the things we did going into Paris was that the Olympic qualification was more connected to world ranking, and so we ended up with a really, really strong Olympic field in both competitions, and that'll be expressed again here in LA. I think, there's there'll be Olympic, what do they call it? There'll be representation from all the different confederations, and that's fine. But generally, it's been 2 in the past. Back in the day, teams from everyone, but I think it'll be 1. And then the rest will be filled in through world ranking, and so there'll be more depth. And I think it's going to be awesome. And
good volleyball.
Yeah, the men's, of course, as you know, is so gnarly. The margins are so thin, and so I have no idea. Too early.
So what are your responsibilities going to be for the Olympics? I mean, do you get to? I mean, because it's Olympics, it's not FIVB, right?
For some tickets.
All right. Well, get a call later. No, so I was just in LA last week, actually, doing a site visit. So we're very much involved in the competition. But it's there's 3 different stakeholders. So IOC oversees the Olympic Games. Yeah. LA 28 is the local organizer, is kind of facilitating that, and then us as the IF are helping. Work with all these different stakeholders around our particular sport. So all the IFs are connected to their sport. But like I said, they liaise with IOC and then obviously work with the local organizers to put it on. So we'll be there. We'll be heavily involved.
Working.
Yeah.
You'll be working.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to one thing you said, and it pivots right to the LA Olympics. You said there's a small window for everything, for a lot of things. And there is, with LA coming up here in not too many years, how can the United States capitalize? Because every Olympics, back when Carrie and Misty are winning, everyone gets super excited about the Olympics, and everyone loves beach volleyball. They're talking about it at the water cooler, and then 2 weeks later they're back to talking about the NBA and NFL, and no one even knows what's going on with volleyball. So now that we see the growth of volleyball, especially on the women's side, how does the FIVB and volleyball capitalize from the LA Olympics to take that window and really push us to the next level?
Yeah, that's a great question. So listen, for the indoor women's side of it, because clearly, and we're all products of men's volleyball, but we know that the momentum and the growth is happening more on the women's side, and there is growth on the men's side, significant growth at high school and D3 level. Not D3, to diminish that, but one of the things that we've done is we've been able to work out a deal to have the World Championships here in the U.S. in 2027 for women. So. The pool play, there are 8 pools of 4, so 32 teams qualify. They'll be played in 2 cities here in the U.S. and 2 cities in Canada. But then the top 8 teams are going to go to Anaheim to play the last rounds of the World Championships.
In the Honda Center.
So that presents obviously a phenomenal opportunity leading into LA to build momentum by having that quality of volleyball here. U.S. has never hosted a World Championships before, so it's a huge deal.
Yeah. Where's the 2 locations?
I'm not sure if it's been announced yet, so I'm going to plead the 5th at this point. Yeah.
Sounds okay. Yep.
As far as beach, we, like you, Coley, understand Olympic beach volleyball, as I kind of alluded to earlier. It's this phenomenon. It's so popular. It's super successful. And, in Paris, we had the luxury of looking out over the Eiffel Tower as well, during the whole thing. It was just backdrop. It gets these incredible locations. Awesome. It's been phenomenal. So how do we keep that going in between the 4-year chunks? And we're working on that to try to reimagine the way that we can format the game, not in terms of the Beach Pro Tour or what it is, but more like, can we make it more of an event than it is? And I'm not saying we're bringing in music or whatever. I'm not saying that. I just think we need to think about really carefully about locations and what we're bringing to that event outside of just the volleyball, because at the end of the day, Olympic volleyball is super popular. One of the main reasons is because it's at the Olympics. We can't change that, but that's one of the main reasons it's so successful is because it's there and people like, oh my gosh, this is great. So how can we have, locations, venues, experiences around the competition that, capture some of that magic? We can't be the Olympics, but can we make it something really, really special and try to grow it that way? So listen, beach volleyball is a significant part of our ecosystem. Commercially, we know it's super complicated. We need to find ways to keep growing it, to keep making it better for everybody. And we're certainly trying to do that.
Yeah, I think the numbers alone we talk about here, I'd love to compare women's basketball to women's volleyball right now. Just in terms of eyeballs on TV, it's got to be super close. If not, volleyball's. It's just amazing how much exposure they're getting and how much more support locally they're getting too, while people actually getting their butts in the seats. So exciting time for women's volleyball, men's volleyball. I mean, we just watched UCLA and Hawaii and in Hawaii against Long Beach State, and there's thousands of people in the stands. It's amazing.
Yeah. And it's a good product. College men's volleyball, it
really is.
The level is very high, and there's lots of good reasons to love our sport, no question. Just the growth pattern for each is a little bit different, and right now I think in the U.S. the women have the biggest opportunity to really accelerate, but I think the rising tide will lift all the boats.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Yeah,
so
we talked about that.
You're talking about the game being so fast. You mean you don't like when we played, when you just set a really high outside ball and you just waited
two to the middle?
Well, the game was slower. Maybe we were slower. I'm not sure. Just
I'm slower now. That's for sure.
Yeah. I go and watch games, and I'm like, wow. Like, I think to myself, could I really did I do that? Like, these guys are so fast, and the women's game, they're just flying everywhere. The sets to the outside are so quick. It's really fun to watch. I mean, like you said, the collegiate men's game is really exciting to watch.
It was interesting, and maybe this is beyond the purvey of our conversation, but after Beijing, I asked Doug Beal, the CEO at the time, I said, "Hey, would you let me coach the USA Women?" And that was seen to be quite an atypical career choice at that point. But there was a couple of reasons. One was we'd won everything we set out to win. We achieved all the goals, so just doing it all over again didn't really seem to hold much appeal.
Right.
But the idea of kind of coaching our U.S. women in kind of a U.S. based philosophy was also kind of intriguing. But also the idea that we could just play volleyball. Like volleyball's got this unique element where we change the constraints of the game, the height of the net primarily, to deal with the differences in height and power. So, Clay Stanley was touching over 12 feet, but Destiny Hooker was touching over 11, and the net was, 8 feet for the guys, and it was 7'4" for the women. So we could still play exactly the same. And so I just, I take, I'm not very prideful, but I take satisfaction, I would say, in the idea that we just play volleyball now, men and women, where everyone's flicking it fast to the pin to create space and attack space. We got back row attack. We got all these things. And they used to be really, really differentiated. And it just feels cool to see that our women are just playing volleyball. They're not playing quote unquote women's volleyball. I mean, the big difference is subs, but the rest of it, pretty cool.
Yeah, it was disheartening when I coached club for girls and I went to a different city and they're like, girls can't handle zero tempo on the middle.
Come on now.
I'm like, what? I'm like, and they would literally tell me, this is from female directors and female coaches, that these girls can't do that. And me coming from the men's side, I'm like, watch them. Yeah, watch me. Right.
And Sully, I had exactly the same thing. When it became public that I was going to coach the USA Women, I got all these phone calls from different college women's coaches like, oh, well, you won't be able to do this and you won't be able to do that. And I was just shocked because, we all want to live in the world of possibility, not the world of limitation. Yeah, sure. So they're all telling me all these things. Oh, well, you won't be able to read block. I'm like, I'm pretty sure we will. I know we only won a silver in London, but that team was undefeated that year, and they were phenomenal. And it's a bummer, that Brazil was good on the day. They were number 2 in the world, and good for them. But man, it was that to me. That was something really cool that we got to be a part of.
Yeah, it was just shocking coming from the females that were saying the females can't. I'm like, what? It's volleyball. Like, no, just get them up and get them up in the air when the setter has it in their hands and have the speed. But we even had college coaches come in our gym and they're like, wow, you run a really fast offense. I'm like, it's zero tempo. I'm not too sure what this is all about. Right. Yeah. So it's interesting that you're saying you come from the men's side and come to the women's and just expose them and say, there are athletes. Let's just speed this up. Like we can reach their potential. Right?
So on the rule side, why wouldn't they change the substitutions to be equal?
Well, the NCAA has a different agenda probably than the FIVB relative to participation, There's so many athletes that play women's volleyball, and they probably think 15 is a way to get more people involved.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm a JUCO
Yeah.
community college coach, and we just switched it this year to 15 subs. And I run a 6-2 system, and I can get everybody involved.
Yeah.
And I do run out of subs if it goes into the 20s tied, but I think it's great. From going from 6 players, I have 8 to 9 players now playing, and
Yeah.
I like it. I actually like the 15 sub rule.
I have a question. Why not just do unlimited? Who cares? I mean, if it's for the game.
That's the NAIA.
No, but I'm saying, like, again, when you look at basketball, right? You can't. It's not like you can go in and then you can't come back in the fourth quarter because you went in 8 times.
Unlimited.
But one of the things, like if we talk, there's 2 elements. So this year in VNL, we're going to try 8 subs, but it's still 1 in, 1 out. But we're going to try to increase the number of subs because we do think more athletes should be able to be on the field of play. And we want to free coaches up to coach, right? Maybe in this element, we need an extra blocker or an extra server or whatever it is. But when you go to free substitution and it's like, hey, anyone can go anywhere at any time, all of a sudden you've got the same person serving every ball. You got the same person hitting every ball. Like it could get a little.
Well,
wacky.
I guess when I mean unlimited subs, but like I guess if I'm coming in for you, I can come in for you 100 times.
Yeah,
that's what I meant. Maybe and that's all. Like I come in for you and then come in
maybe
for
that's
Sully.
the next iteration. But we just get so far away from the idea of playing the whole game, like we talked about. I think if you talk to Karch and certainly, and maybe you have, certainly when I was coaching the women, it became one of the things that was tough was because of the 15 subs, we had players that were super talented, but they weren't great at playing the whole game because, generally there were 3 clicks and out, or we had middle blockers that had never served their entire collegiate career. You know what I mean? So there were some limitations that brought, and that was our problem. It wasn't their problem. I'm saying, like I said, NCAA and international is different, but it just meant that the growth and the development of the players was a little bit different for what international volleyball required.
Yeah.
So rumor now is the libero might be able to set. Have you heard that?
I had heard that, and that was a rumor only. It was a discussion. And, every year we have commission meetings. They're supposed to be safe spaces for discussion. Somebody leaked some of the discussion points, but it was more just to say, like, hey, how could we do it? But it became pretty clear quite quickly that we should have them sit behind the 3-meter line. But if you let them sit in front of the 3-meter line, you could just have your setter be the libero, and all of a sudden you don't need a libero. So
right,
So because it would be unlimited subs, right? So you could almost run like a little,
exactly
6-2 with the same setter going back row for everybody.
The whole time.
So listen, luckily we're a little bit smarter than we looked. So we had the discussion. We could see that in concept, like it is great if the libero could set, but then it sets off this whole ripple effect that we didn't want to deal with. So
it's just a rumor.
It was something that was discussed.
Yeah, it was a discussion.
Yeah, we had a talk, and then we're like, nah, that's not going to work. But somehow it came out like, oh, this is what they're going to do. And no, that wasn't accurate.
Yeah, that's not good.
Hey, can I put a little pivot on this conversation towards the end of this interview? A good friend of all 3 of ours, and you, all 4 of us, is Alan Knipe.
Sure.
Excuse me. And I talked with him the other night, and I said, hey, we're having Hugh on this thing. And so he talked with me a little bit, and he's just like, he gives you a lot of credit for bringing him into, like, you helped hire him into the USA program, and he considers you a mentor, and you made his transition smooth into USA volleyball. Just kind of wondering what your thoughts are on all that and stuff.
Well,
and
I'm getting goosebumps hearing that because we're guys, so we don't share that kind of stuff, But the idea that I would have had a positive influence on a coach that's been that successful is, that's wonderful to hear and humbling and all the stuff that goes with that. My recollection is I knew how hard that job was because I just lived it for 4 years. Well, 7 years actually, because I was 3 years as an assistant for Athens, and then 4 years as a head coach. Right. I also knew all the guys that he had, and some of the guys that were coming in, and I felt it was absolutely my responsibility to try to help them as much as I could. Not just on the vocational side of things, but just here's the transition. Here's some things you want to know. Here's some things you want to be aware of, and not
Right.
in any way trying to insert myself into that process. But if you didn't know anything and you're starting from zero, and clearly he knows something, but if you don't know anything about
coming in after
that
2008
team,
stuff. Yeah.
So just trying to help him get up to speed, and we had a lot of really good discussions, and So I'll make sure I give him a call. How about that?
Yeah. One thing he said, we got lucky when they won the national championship. Of course, these two played with him at Long Beach. And so he's a good friend to all of us. And he came on the podcast the night after he had won the national championship last year. And one of the things in this, I'm just bringing this back up to full circle to what you said, is one of the things that caught me listening to why his team was so good last year is they had a bunch of injuries, is because he had a bunch of volleyball players. Right. That's what he said. He goes, I have volleyball players. They one played middle for half the season, then played on the right. And it made me think of that story when you said you had middles that had never served.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it goes back to what you said at the beginning of just such a disservice to the youth of not teaching the game of volleyball, the skill set of volleyball. And skill set of volleyball has serving in it.
Yeah.
Right. The skill set of volleyball has setting in it.
Yeah.
It's a piece in it. And it should be taught that way. And that was something I got from Alan, because, I love Alan, and to hear him say that, and just to go back to thinking about your teams and how you win, is to have that kind of overall volleyball player and teaching that kind of skill set is important. So I just made me think of that when you mentioned that about not being able to serve, because it's true. And, I go watch high school games around here in California, and you see these great players. And then, like you said, they're middles, and they don't even know how to dig or even just stand in the back row, and they don't do that. They just go play middle, and then they get out, and then you put the back row player in.
Block and hit. That's about it.
I hope again, as we grow in this country, and the sports are growing, both men's, women, everything, we continue to evolve. We continue to maybe go back a step before we go forward a step, and going back is teaching, right? And teaching and learning the skill set. So
100%.
How before we go on here, how's the wife doing? And you said you have kids playing basketball. Do they not play volleyball either?
They both play both. Yeah, they're both playing both. So Wizzy's doing great, thank you. And our son's playing basketball and volleyball, and our daughter does a bit of both as well. So we're trying to get him to play as many as we can for as long as we can, but we know that gets tougher and tougher. But yeah.
Do you think they'll, just having parents that played volleyball, will they lean towards that, or do you think they'll lean towards the hoop, or if they love it?
Probably. Well, first of all, I think everyone here knows how difficult it is to be good. Like, it takes your head and your heart. It's not your head and mom and dad's heart. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
We got to figure out. It's their deal to figure out what they really want to do, and
sure.
They can be in the band. I don't care. Like, if they're passionate about it, they go for it. So we'll see. I think time will tell. Probably our son's a little bit 50-50. I think maybe our daughter's a little more inclined towards the hoop, but we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Coley's kids are monsters, and they're hoopsters. They're not even volleyball guys, right?
Yeah.
I've got kids, four kids, and they all went track. One's doing both.
Yeah.
But yeah, they didn't go the volleyball route necessarily in high school, but for the most part, not college.
Well,
I think
it's
was track as well.
What I was going to say is, and I think, it makes a lot of sense, right? It's mom and dad's thing. It doesn't have to be your thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Go blaze your own trail. Don't blaze
I just said you're going to be active. No matter what you do, you're going to be active.
Bed rot.
Yeah, we were the same. Exactly. Just do anything. Play guitar.
It doesn't matter. Just be busy.
Passionate. And do something. We tried to play volleyball for fun, and they were around it growing up a lot. And,
of course.
And I think part of it for them is they were, like you said, one of the biggest things is not having your parents' heart, and it needs to be theirs. Both my boys love the game, and they love to compete. They both played a lot of sports growing up, but they fell in love with basketball. And I mean, my wife and I, Mooney and I were so happy because they just love it, right? And that's all you want is them to love it. But I was just curious, because it's funny because we were volleyball players and they don't play it. So
we'll see. I'll let you know in a couple of years.
Yeah, I'll be following it for sure.
For sure. Well, boys, another fantastic podcast on Set the Pipe. Hugh, we thank you so much for taking the time.
My pleasure.
I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, awesome to connect with you guys. Reconnect, wonderful.
Yes.
What a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right, all the best.